Welcome back to Typically Unique. I'm Kim Aponte, and I'm here with my husband, Carlos.
Hello. So this is part 4, episode 23.
Yes.
Part 4 of, and the last episode on Brutons. So I also have one last video, which I called kind of an epilogue,
Yes.
right? To kind of tie everything together and say goodbye to the hospital because, again, we're getting close to going home.
We're getting ready to go home.
Yeah, we're close. So
I think you were going on a trip, so we knew this was going to be the last day that Carlos would be at the hospital, and it was sad when you spend 7 months of your life
yes,
getting to know everybody that's there.
And I think I went around and kind of, you know, I was doing this whole Bruton's thing that you saw in the past 3 episodes. So I was doing that whole thing. But at the same time, I'm saying goodbye to people that who were patients, you know, and parents that we met. And I'm saying goodbye to the staff. But at the same time, I still got a little vinegar in me about this Bruton's thing going on. So let me show this last clip, which is the epilogue. You know, hang around to the end because I actually pan over to Aiden, and he is unfortunately sleeping. But you get a glimpse of what he looked like right before he went home after this last and final round of treatment. So here's the video.
Yes.
So this is the epilogue, and you know, we've gone through this very long journey, 7 months, and if you go back to the time when we were here back in 2003, you know, almost 9 years now, and Aiden has done an amazing job throughout all this, throughout his time with the A gamma globulinemia. He's certainly done a fantastic job getting through this cancer, and most of all, I think we as a family have fought very hard to get to this point where we're at, where we're so close to getting these last few numbers so Aiden can come home for good. And we appreciate everything that everybody has done. Kim and I are strong believers in positive energy and the power of prayer and positive thoughts, and we appreciate everything that everybody has done. And just looking at this board, knowing that we have probably less than 10 days to go, you know, this has been a crazy experience, and we have seen a lot, cried a lot, had a lot of hope, and realized we had a great group of friends and relatives that have helped us so much on this journey. And please know that this has been a very stressful time for us. And if we have in any way have been maybe a little short with somebody, or maybe didn't get back to somebody quick enough, or just told you thank you, we certainly apologize, because this has been the most trying experience of our life. And tonight, it's about 10:30 at night, and I'm about to erase this board because I'm leaving tomorrow and I am not scheduled to be back here. And I think Aiden will be home after that, so I probably won't be back up at the hospital. So I did a lot of soul searching and looking around up here today. I said my goodbyes, and I want to thank everybody out there who've helped us, and ultimately this is what it's about. You know, Aiden getting cured, even though he's sleeping right now, but my boy's getting his hair back. And hopefully it'll be my son again, the way I knew him before all this. Bye.
So it's weird seeing that, and weird seeing Aiden lying in that bed, which we saw for, 6-7 months. And,
we discussed maybe should we cut that? But then you were like, it's been on Facebook for how many
right.
years?
Yeah,
12 years or
12
something.
years.
So yeah, just
So, and man, I just saw everything that he went through, and just coming out of that, knowing okay, we cured the AML, right? He's so close to getting that neutrophil number, so we're not gonna have to deal with that anymore. And maybe there's a glimmer of hope that this Bruton's is also cleared, and maybe I can get some of that vibrancy that he had, especially before AML, and a few days after he got his IVIG treatments, he would be strong and wanting to go out and play and do all that stuff, and and maybe I could get some of that back, so that was the emotion I was feeling at the end of that, was maybe we're gonna get our son back in some way, shape, or form.
just get him healthy again, and completely healthy, and that's what we were looking forward to.
That's what we're hoping for.
Yeah.
So the big reveal of all this is today, as of today, 12 years later, Aiden has not had an IVIG treatment.
Nope.
For Bruton's.
Since about a year after we went home.
Since about a year. So they did some weaning, right?
Took about a year.
Some other stuff, was going on that we'll get into later on.
Yes.
But to put a nice, neat little bow on it, Aiden was cured of Bruton's, which is also called
X-linked agammaglobulinemia.
And that acronym is XLA.
XLA, you'll see that for short. Yep, that's easier to say, XLA.
So for those of you, because we've teased this for 3.25 episodes, for those of you at home who happen to be watching this and were drawn to this video because we put Bruton's or X-linked.
Is there a cure? Was the title of the videos?
Is there a cure? Yes.
Yes.
And Aiden was the first documented case of a person having AML and Bruton's at the same time. And to our knowledge, to this day, he is the first and only, to our knowledge, to this day, person who has been cured of Bruton's or X-linked agammaglobulinemia, XLA.
Yes.
That's, whoa, take a minute. Take a minute. Let's revel in that for a second, because we were just two people who said there's something different here. There's something going on. Let's take a look at it. And the title of this podcast is Typically Unique. And we heard typically unique so many times in the hospital that we became immune to that, and we pushed forward.
Yeah. I don't know if we became immune to it. We were annoyed by it.
Annoyed by it, yeah. But it didn't stop us.
No, it kind of made, we were not being stopped by that. We just persevered anyways, just questioning things.
Yeah, well, because when somebody would say, oh, that's typical, everybody would walk away. And we would stop what we were investigating or questioning, right? Or, oh, hey, that's unique, but, things will, turn out okay. Don't worry about it, or everybody's unique. Everybody responds to things differently. We just said, okay, thanks for that non-response. We're going to look into it a little bit more.
Right. And most people would just accept that. And I'm definitely not that kind of a person. And you aren't either.
Well,
and
that's the teaching moment here, right? That's what Typically Unique was started for, is we persevered through some of these things or some of these instances that we were kind of told, oh, don't worry about that. That's not a big thing. Or, that's going to take too much. We persevered through that when they were just telling us not to, or not to worry about it. And the other thing I want to mention, I guess about that is, I don't want to put the doctors and nurses and everybody in a bad light. Rainbow Babies and Children's was phenomenal.
Yes.
That is a truly world-class hospital, and they deserve every single accolade that they get.
Yes, I appreciated every second of being there. I felt comfortable knowing they were doing the best they could. I felt like we had the best world-class doctors, staff. They're connected with the research facility up there at Case Western. I mean, we never doubted that.
No.
Never doubted that. But we're also still going to question even
Right.
that level of care.
Yeah.
So.
And it was, I think, we didn't come from it because, one of the things they did initially was get off the internet. Kim, get off the internet. It's going to give you a bunch of bad information. We were told that probably the first month when we were up there. Kim, get off the internet.
Stop looking things up.
Stop looking things up. We didn't take that advice because I think we talked about in one of the very early episodes here was that helped us speak the language.
Right.
Even though it's a foreign language to us, it helped us speak the language. And we became knowledgeable, maybe through some misinformation, and we had those conversations, right? But we became knowledgeable about everything that Aiden was going through. And nobody knew his medical history better than, her, me a far second, and then everybody else a way far third.
Well, and you do have to be careful when you look things up on the internet. You have to know yourself and trust yourself to have that, can you separate what could be realistic and that's too far out there, I mean, we can see those things and differentiate all that, and if I wasn't sure, I would ask the doctors, and if they would say, oh, absolutely not, and explain to me why, and I understood that, I would be like, okay.
Yeah.
No harm. No
Right.
harm in that. So,
And we would try to take the time, in rounds, if we could. We didn't want to hold up the whole line because there's a whole bunch of people doing that in rounds. But when the doctor would come in specifically for Aiden, right, to have that time and talk specifically, about his case, that was a perfect time for Kim to ask some of those questions. And I think she did a great job in doing that, And I think that led to us starting to question things later on and during the AML treatment that maybe no fault of anybody, but sometimes things were missed and we were able to pick up the ball and catch them a little bit, Right.
And I think so. I mean, if the Brutons is going to be cured from the treatment he got, that's going to happen regardless of whether we brought it to somebody's attention or not, right? It happened because of the medicine. And so no matter how anybody was thinking or feeling, us, the doctors, the staff, anybody, that was an outcome that was going to happen.
Right.
So us kind of bringing it and noticing it ahead of time is just, it was interesting to us. It was a hope, for us. So yeah, it was going to happen anyways, but we wouldn't have found out until way later.
Exactly.
When, they would have been giving him the IVIG on schedule, and probably his numbers would always have been high, and that's when it would have been discovered. We just
maybe a
helped
couple
find
years
it
later.
out earlier.
Yeah.
Right. And I just wanted to verify how important to the scientific community that Aiden, that this discovery was, and he was actually written about in a scientific article. His doctors, all his immunology doctors, the cancer treatment doctors, all of the staff that helped with any of his care, any of his lab work, the analysis of his lab work. There are quite a few authors on this scientific journal article, and I'm sure it was probably published in many different places, I found it through the National Institute of Health. The top of this article says HHS Public Access Author Manuscript, Pediatric Blood Cancer Author Manuscript, and it was published September of 2015. And the title is Successful Treatment in a Patient with X-linked A-gamma globulinemia and acute myeloid leukemia. And then it lists all the doctors, and these just the short. It's you want to talk about medical language. There's a lot of medical language in here.
I can't read that thing.
Basically, it says in this part that although malignancy has been observed in patients with XLA, we present the first reported case of acute myeloid leukemia, AML, in a patient with XLA. We also demonstrate the complete correction of the XLA.
Woohoo!
And then they just go on to medically explain how that happened.
Is that crazy?
Such a big deal.
Is that?
Yeah.
I mean, that is absolutely crazy. And again, I go back to and well, let me step back for a second before I go to this. Kim, once this was done, they really wanted to publish this, right? Once they were on board and said, "Okay, this is cured. Yeah, we don't need to do anything with this."
No doubt about it.
No doubt about it.
All the data.
Tip hat, Carlos, Kim, you guys are right. This is good. Kim assisted in providing as much information, data that she could provide. I mean, she even called some research folks in Seattle just because, hey, I want to learn more about this and, tell me what's going on, and maybe for some other reasons. But Kim's a bulldog,
well,
right?
That's a funny story. So there's only like one lab, I believe. There could be two, I don't know. But at the time, again, back in 2011, I believe there was one lab that you could send blood work to really get into the DNA and the way that they were looking at. They were
full analysis of the blood work.
Full analysis to look at all these IgGs and IgAs to find out exactly the pinpoint spot where his mutations and everything were. And at one point, I had questions. So I got on the internet, and I think I knew the doctor's name that was out there. I knew the name of the lab, or however I had
because we saw it on some paperwork.
I probably saw it on a report that I got.
Yep.
Made note of that. Mm-hmm. And then I found the phone number of this place through searching on my own. Like I always say, I need to be a detective.
Yeah.
Found a phone number, called that place. And they were like, "How did you get this number?
Who are you? How did you get this number? You're not a doctor? You're not a lab person?"
No, I'm just a mom. Just a mom with some questions about my kid. And it was just funny. And
they answered.
They talked to me.
Yeah.
They were just surprised. I mean, they don't deal with patients. That's why.
Right.
They have hospitals and labs send them blood, and then they do the analysis. So that was out of the ordinary for them. But that's the lengths I would go to.
And I don't want to end this on a negative note, so I'm going to talk about this now, and then we can get back to all the great stuff that I think we did to help assist make this happen. So there were, once all this was found out, right, and they were going to start putting this article together, I think they had reached out to us a couple times. Years later, probably even a couple years ago.
Just a few years ago.
Yeah, just a couple years
out of the blue, which was crazy.
Yeah, they would call us. They would call Kim and say, hey, could we get some of Aiden's blood? We want to continue to do research because when you read if you read that article, they talk about doing some trials. They're looking at less invasive ways.
Yes.
To cure Brutons because of what we went through.
Right. So what Aiden went through was really brutal. They're trying to look at, can we replicate this? Can we do this in a less brutal, harsh way.
Right.
So that's what we think they're trying to study.
So one of the things about this cure for the incurable disease, right, was when I walked into those stations at the hospital where they were giving these infusions and Bruton's patients were all around, you know, and looking at how many people were just in our area on one day of the week at 1 hour of the week, you know, 10 people. I mean, could you imagine filling that all week long with hundreds and hundreds of people who have this? That's mind-blowing to me. I've never heard of this Bruton's beforehand, but having those people have an opportunity for a cure. And because this paper was written, people are picking this up and saying, let's do some trials. Maybe we can find a less harsh way to go about this. Patient zero would be a big help in this. And unfortunately,
so we get this phone call a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Oh, and even prior, you know, a few times we've gotten a phone call or, you know, things like that. We got this phone call a couple of years ago, and patient zero does not want to participate.
Yeah.
And so, again, Kim and I look at this a little bit through some different lenses, right?
I see both sides.
Yeah, and I see both sides.
Doesn't mean I like it.
Yeah, but to me, Aiden was poked and prodded, and you know, he went through so much, and he finally doesn't have to be poked and prodded anymore.
Yeah.
And hey, you know, you haven't been poked and prodded in a few years. You want to come back and
prod you some more?
You know, it ain't happening.
No.
Right? Now, on the other side, how many people can we help? And we try to appeal to that in him.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm. We try to have those conversations.
And how did they go?
Maybe someday.
Yeah.
We keep saying maybe someday he'll change his mind, but because, you know, how awesome to contribute to science like that and help further the study. So
I mean, and he is literally patient zero for this, and a massive amount of people could really benefit from this.
Be helped from it.
And he just does not want to participate. So a lot of things could happen, you know, and hopefully somewhere down the road, they could find maybe a less invasive way to cure this based on the things that they learned with Aiden. Maybe Aiden would want to participate in the future.
Yep.
And that's...
We keep hoping for that too. Yep.
A hope.
Yep.
But I want to come back to the fact, because I just want to kind of wrap up the whole Bruton's things. You may hear about it in future episodes, but that had a clear start and a clear end, right? So that one's pretty clean. This will be the last focus on Bruton's, but I am so proud of you for what you did through this, because, you know, Kim, you made it comfortable for him going through this. I mean, you sought out, like, why am I getting emotional? You sought out home health care for him.
Yeah.
You sought out the best home health care person, because we kicked out about 3 or 4.
You have to do what's best for the patient, right? So I'm not gonna. Yeah, you just have to. Nicely, I guess. But
you do it how you do it, baby. But I mean, kudos to you for making this as comfortable for him as you did with, even before home health care. You know, you took him to those treatments with a movie under one arm, a video game under another arm, a book under your chin, snacks, blankets, pillow. I mean, you did a fantastic job. I so love you for that, and I know that I'm kind of like, hey, let's just go up and get it done, whatever they got up there, let's do it, I mean, but that's where we're different, right? I mean, Kim's like, how can I make this the most comfortable? And I just love that caringness about you.
Well, and to get, I know there's parents going through that right now, and I'm not like bragging, like, oh, well, I did something else too. Try to make a a fun day afterwards. So like sometimes I would try to plan something right when we left to go like somewhere special to eat or go do something fun, so that that's not the only thing that day. Like he had something to look forward to.
Right. No, and I think from that, I think just you advocating at the hospital, because we were still going through Bruton's when we were at the hospital with AML, and we still had to work with the immunologist, and and they had to come from their practice to talk to our doctors here at Rainbow to make sure that everything, and we would call them in on occasion. Hey, what's going on with this? And especially at the end,
quite a few occasions.
And so it was. We put ourselves on the line. We opened ourselves up to some ridicule, probably, because we were being a little too demanding, but Kim powered through all that. And this Bruton's and her help afterwards to the medical professionals that reached out, she answered every question. She took every call.
Yeah.
She did everything in her power to try to get, Aiden to participate. This was not a roadblock. This was, you did everything to help, put this out there. So hopefully in a few years from now, when they do find the cure, I hope in some way your name is attached to that. I think it would be appropriate if in some way your advocacy should be attached to that in some way. And I'm stating it here on Typically Unique, episode 23, that I am nominating Kim Aponte to have whatever this cure could be in the future. Her name is in that somehow, some way.
And I don't know if that is to be connected to Bruton's, but I do like advocating. So I have kind of looked forward at how can I contribute, and my way of giving back maybe when I retire in a few years would be to help do that for families, because I enjoy it. It's helpful to people, and I think I'm pretty good at it.
Oh, you're good
I'm good at being a pain to people and asking questions.
You're good at it. Well, you're persistent, and people sometimes, when you get pushed back, you shut down. And you didn't shut it down.
Yeah, I try not to take no for an answer until it gets to the point where that makes sense to me. Okay, we can't go any further, but
Kim can't take no for an answer, and I like to always find a way to say yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's
combination, a good combination
is, I think, perfect for us, and I think a way that we helped Aiden through this process, and let's just keep it in the Bruton lane for now, because we got other stuff we gotta go through here, which next episode done with Bruton's. So what do we got next? We still haven't left the hospital from AML, so should we pick it up there?
No, but we know we're curing the AML, and we just got to get out of the hospital. And, that's not just, it's over when the day you leave the hospital. So there's a lot of ongoing care after that. So we'll continue on our timeline with that in our next episode.
Bye.
I'll see you then. Bye.
Bye now.